Next step communications from the source are your point of connection with the work of the source to build the heaven life was meant to be. I'm Sherry Daniel. I'm the director of the Heaven Project and the founder of the Miracle School. Next Step Communications is sponsored by the Miracle School, a source-directed, miracle-based training program for spiritual activists. This source communication provides information on the source plan for the Total Abundance Project, with a special focus on getting equipped and trained to live the heaven experience. I'll start out with information on how to understand a source plan communication. Source plan communications provide three kinds of information. They provide an overview of a particular aspect of the source plan for building heaven in the world. They provide a discussion of key issues that you need to bring into focus in order to understand the plan. And they provide a series of next steps to begin implementing the source plan. Now let's look at how to work with a source communication. As in all source communications, it is important to remember that what is being conveyed in a communication materializes as source truths that build the foundation of source truth upon which you can build heaven. The truths materialize from the words that I speak, from the text that you read, and from the source drawings that convey the true energies of what is depicted, giving you an opportunity to perceive spiritual reality from the perspective of the source. When you ask to become what is needed to support the work of the source, you will be able to receive these source truths. It is best to work with a source communication multiple times, because each time your inner intelligence, which is the part of you that knows how to work with the miracles of the source, will receive different levels of the source communication. It can then surface these understandings in time to your conscious mind. The source drawings are miracle tools that you can work with to learn more on many different levels. I recommend that you watch the video from start to finish and then go back and pause it to spend time with the different source drawings. There is a world of information encoded in these drawings that your inner intelligence will know how to connect to and help you to grasp in your conscious mind. I am able to convey these source communications because I am the manifestation of the source who incarnates in order to convey the source perspective to beings in the manifest world, and to assist them in working with the source plan to stop the suffering and build the heaven of true happiness in their lives and in their world. I am here in this life because beings have taken the creation to the level of unsustainability, and radical interventions that bring about massive universal change have been required to correct the situation. To the extent that you can keep yourself informed about what these changes are and how to respond to what is up ahead, you will provide yourself with a chance to survive them and to be a contributing part of the heaven that is being built in the creation as a whole. It is the wish of the source that you share this information with others so that they too can prepare for the changes and work alongside the source to build the heaven that life was meant to be. Let's start with a question of what is total abundance? Total abundance is not having more relationships, possessions, opportunities, and experiences. Total abundance is having just the right relationships, possessions, opportunities, and experiences. But how do you know what's right for you? Well, let's take a look at the two options that are available to you. You could choose to embark on a story mission. You can reference the cultural story and develop your own personal story which defines what kind of a character in the cultural play you are and what a person such as you needs to be happy. When you do this, you define a story mission for yourself and set off to acquire the total abundance of having everything that fulfills this story that you've created for yourself. or you could embark on the source-created mission. You can reference the source-created mission that your soul, which is who you really are, requested the source to create for you before you became incarnate in this life. This mission was to deepen your love connection with the source as you built the heaven of the highest level of happiness for yourself and others. When you embark on your source-created mission in life, you turn to the source for the total abundance of all of the spiritual equipment, miracle-based training, source guidance, and miracles that you will need to fulfill your mission. You enter into source care and then enter into the structure of an ongoing heaven experience that stages the heaven happenings in your life that enable you to live the heaven experience. As you live the heaven experience, you both experience the heaven that your life was meant to be and accomplish your mission in life, which is to contribute to building the aspect of heaven that only you can build for yourself and all others. Now let's take a closer look at what happens on the inner plane when you choose the story mission and what happens when you choose the source-created mission. In this source drawing, beings who've chosen their story mission exist in a story world. They are depicted here as the orange circles. They are very two-dimensional because they have defined themselves as just the roles that they play in the story play of their culture. They are like cartoon characters that can only exist in the cartoon. They have no reality outside of the context of the cartoon because they are only the roles they play in the cartoon. For instance, a billionaire has status only in the cultural story. If he bases his self-worth on identifying with his money, then if he were to step out of the cultural story, as happens at death, he would be no one because his wealth would not accompany him into the life after death. In the story world, the most successful story characters are the ones who fulfill their personal story. These are the ones who run the most greed current, symbolized by the orange color. When the desire for gratification is the motive, the greed current runs through the suit and is the motivating factor behind the quest to acquire the total abundance needed to play out one's story. The more greed current you run, the more fear you experience. If you are very invested in achieving a goal, your fear of losing out on taking your desire to fruition is also proportionally high. Both greed and fear currents create the energy medium in which the negativity, the criminal element that operates on the inner plane, can land and begin generating the hell experience. The hell experience is the experience of fear, scarcity, struggle, and suffering. As a person experiences the hell experience, they become spiritually fragmented, and the negativity can then move in and harvest their energies, leaving them wasted and depleted even in the surroundings of their story abundance. It's a strange devastation accompanied by many hell happenings, which are the rewards that the negativity, in its sadistic way, gives those who buy into the story way of life with the most intensity. These hell happenings may be accidents that cause the tragic loss of loved ones, diseases, mental torment, betrayals, financial loss, and the like. The darkest levels of the negativity have become so fragmented themselves that all that they can experience is pain. Their personal story has become the story of inflicting cruel and surprising levels of pain on those who believe that they have realized the total abundance of their story fulfilled, or who are just beginning to reach the crest of the hill in eager anticipation of this fulfillment. Everyone in the story world who is running a greed current is generating the medium for the hell experience. To the degree that they are running the greed current, they are generating more of the hell experience for themselves and others. In this source drawing, the color gradient of the circle that represents the story world is lighter at the bottom. It's lighter because those who generate less greed current are at the bottom. They're represented by the smaller orange circles. These are the beings who may either be considered losers in the story world or those who have opted out because they're still trying to play some version of their personal story because they don't know what else to do. In the middle range, you get a darker gray background, which represents a stronger hell experience generated by beings who are running more of a greed current and are more avidly jockeying to fulfill their personal stories. Some of these beings are building more greed and beginning to move toward the highest level where beings who have amassed the most greed reside. At this top level, which has the darkest levels of the hell experience, are those who have fulfilled most of their personal story. They might be those in the small percentage of people who own most of the world's wealth, or they might be a person who's fiercely risen to a place of power in their family or community by being so manipulative that they have realized their personal story and forced others to tap dance on their stage in accordance with it. These people, while more satisfied because they have realized their personal story, are also totally defined by it and reduced to it. They have become their story, the cartoon character they play in the cartoon world, and they have lost sight of their true spiritual identity, their soul which transcends the ephemeral cultural stories of different lifetimes. They are those with the least capacity for love or compassion, the most ruthless ones who are willing to do whatever it takes to make their version of reality prevail over all others. They view others only as the roles they play and can feel totally justified in treating them with cruelty if they occupy roles that give them little or no value in the cultural story. Discrimination, abuse, enslavement, and genocide are expressions of this objectification of others in the cultural play. As those at the top are more easily preyed upon and often possessed by the negativity which can readily move into their larger energy medium of greed and fear, these beings at the top become more ruthless and cruel toward those over whom they have authority. The end result is the world of suffering that we have today, where war, crime, discrimination, child abuse, and domestic violence abound, where the wealthy engineer economic scarcity through withholding vital resources, where war becomes a way to make money for the rich who stage conflicts that create hell for so many, where those frustrated at not being able to realize their personal stories end up enacting a story of death and destruction through acts of terrorism, where nations build a stockpile of weapons that could end life on the planet, and businesses so possessed by the desire to make money pollute the environment, setting the stage for disease and death for themselves, for other humans, and for other species. From the source perspective, the evidence is in. Pursuing one's own personal story has not ended up in happiness on an individual level or at a societal level. Instead, it has ended up in personal and collective versions of the hell experience that span the spectrum from moderate levels of scarcity, struggle, and suffering to horrific levels of suffering, such as that experienced by those who are caught in abject poverty, those caught in the middle of wars, who experience torture, abuse, discrimination, and the like. Throughout the creation, where this methodology has been employed for achieving total abundance, there has been nothing but the hell experience. And worse than this, there has been the undermining of the very foundation of life that could support total abundance. The pursuit of the personal and cultural stories has almost led to the end of life itself in the creation as a whole, through precipitating the disease of fragmentation that has been rapidly destroying individuals and the manifestation of the creation itself. The disease of fragmentation is caused by a disconnection from the source and from the source love that holds the spiritual particles of which every manifestation is made together. When a being is engaged in a self-centered pursuit of their own personal story, they are disconnecting more and more from the source and distancing more and more from source love. As they have less and less source love in them holding their spiritual particles together, these particles begin to separate out from one another, creating the disease of fragmentation. When the disease of fragmentation reaches its peak level, the manifestation itself disintegrates, ending life on spiritual and physical levels. So the bottom line on the pursuit of the story mission is that it leads to the hell experience, and the hell experience at its ultimate level leads not to the maximization of total abundance, but to the complete loss of total abundance, to the end of life itself. For more information on the disease of fragmentation, I refer you to the Source Communication video entitled The Work of the Source. Now let's take a look at what happens on the inner plane when you choose your Source-created mission. When you opt to fulfill the mission the Source created for you at your request before you incarnated in this lifetime, then you enter into the protective field of the heaven experience. This protective field is symbolized in this Source drawing by the yellow circle. The beings are symbolized by the blue spheres. They are three-dimensional in the sense that they are identifying not with the social roles they play in the world, but with their eternal spiritual identity as the soul, and with the unique spiritual function that they have in the creation. They are not running a greed current, but are neutral in their orientation, open to becoming what is needed to support the work of the Source. It is here that you can be shielded from the dog-eat-dog world of the hell experience and begin to fulfill your mission by deepening your love connection with the Source as you build the heaven of true happiness in your life and in the world. You define total abundance not in terms of a personal story, but in terms of what you need to fulfill your mission. Having possessions that are not right for you is recognized as cluttering up your life and creating an obstruction. You want to travel the road of the adventure of your life with just what you need to rise to every challenge and be fully equipped with the Source guidance and the miracles that will enable heaven to manifest in your life and in your world. In the protective field of the heaven experience, you can share the experience of building heaven with a community of others like yourself who have opted to fulfill their Source-created missions and who are looking only to the Source for the total abundance of what they need to fulfill this. They are not relying on their street smarts and competing with you to get whatever is out there to get. They are following Source guidance with regard to what is needed and how to procure it in a way that engenders heaven for you and for them and for all others. In this environment, you recognize that an important part of your total abundance is having a community of supportive heaven agents around you who are willing to draw on their heaven agent abilities to help you fulfill your mission. They know that you will also do what you are Source-guided to do to help them fulfill their missions. Since every being in the community is recognized as capable of building an aspect of heaven that only they can build, everyone acknowledges that it's important to help everyone else to succeed. Only then can all of the facets of heaven at its highest level be built. Competition, discrimination, abuse, and the like make no sense in this community. Neither does some artificial ceiling put on what an individual might need to fulfill their mission. The resources that the Source helps the individual to acquire are whatever they need, with no attempt to give everyone the same kind of resources. For instance, a person born into an African village may be on a mission to bring in a certain kind of heaven in that setting. Owning a yacht and a private jet and touring the world would not fit with his mission. In fact, it would destroy the beauty of his life plan. But for someone who incarnated in order to amass wealth and use it to bring about Source-directed social and political change, having these resources is appropriate to interfacing with the rich and powerful so the mission can be fulfilled. One heaven agent's mission is not more important or valuable than another heaven agent's mission based on the amount of material resources needed for the mission. Heaven is like a puzzle with the missions of the heaven agents composing the individual pieces of the puzzle. When each heaven agent does his or her mission, then all of the pieces of the puzzle come together to form the completed picture of the heaven that was to be created. If even one piece of the puzzle is missing, then no one can enjoy the completed picture of the heaven that was to be manifested in the world. There is an equal amount of beauty and perfection in each successfully completed heaven agent mission. Those in the community respect the roles that each person plays in the Source plan for building heaven in the world and work to help each other to have the support from the community that is needed to rise to the challenges of the mission and to fulfill it at the highest level. They recognize that only when every member of the universal community has everything that they need and every life is nurtured and fulfilled, will there be peace. Where there is peace, beings can relax into the heaven experience that the Source creates for them, and in so doing, can travel through a series of guided experiences that result in their ultimate spiritual healing. In this way, they can achieve the total abundance of perfect health, without which no amount of love-based relationships or material possessions will result in true happiness. When the body is ill and unable to function, total abundance has not been achieved. They understand the importance of becoming equipped and trained to live the heaven experience, which is an experience of developing the love connection with the Source to its highest level, where their only focus is becoming the love that they give to the Source. Because they are not attached to the relationships, possessions, opportunities, or experiences that the Source creates for them, they have no fear. They live the love that makes life heaven. Through living the love, they thoroughly enjoy the exquisite gifts of the Source, of the heaven happenings that manifest in their lives, and they work with the Source to help to manifest these heaven happenings for others. Through working to help heaven manifest in the lives of even those who are most caught up in the story world, they help them to experience a moment of transcendence and pure joy, apart from the pseudo-highs generated when they gratify their story desires. Through such moments that come through heaven happenings, those caught in the story world begin to awaken and align with the love of the Source and escape from the hell experience into the heaven experience. Those living the heaven experience key off of the integrated picture of reality that the Source has gifted them in the Source plan. This integrated picture can best be understood by looking at this graphic. This graphic is a multi-purpose miracle tool that I've linked in this Source communication to a miracle that has transformed it into a roadmap to total abundance. In the Source plan, you enter into Source care when you embark on the journey of reconnection to the love of the Source. As you commit yourself to developing the love connection with the Source, then the Source takes you on a guided journey to total abundance that culminates in the total abundance of the highest level of the heaven experience. Since life was meant to be a celebration of the love connection that results in the joy, peace, bliss, and fulfillment of the heaven experience, the Source plan is focused on helping you to achieve this highest level of true happiness. Your roadmap begins in the Love Connection project, where you enter into Source care. When you enter into Source care level 1, your manifestation, which is depicted as the white transformer in the Source drawing, is protected by the Source care transformer, which is the blue transformer. A transformer is a blunt-nosed cone within which volatile Source energies are transformed to produce other energies needed for your mission in life. The Source Care Transformer then carries you safely on your total abundance journey to the Total Abundance Project, where you can get trained and equipped to manifest the total abundance that you will need for your mission in this life. As you can see, the Total Abundance Project is a subset of the Supporting the Source project. The only way to achieve total abundance is to support the work of the Source, which is to provide you with total abundance. The Source knows what total abundance means for you, who you are as a unique being with a unique mission in life, and what you will need to experience the highest level of happiness in your life on every level. It will guide you step by step to work with its support to bring in the miracles that make a life of total abundance possible. Total abundance can't be achieved by living an ordinary life where man-made things are what you rely on for the stage props for your happiness. It takes miracles staged through an ongoing heaven experience to manifest the heaven that your life was meant to be. This is why it's important to build strategically, with the guidance of the Source, the foundation of total abundance, from which you can then move on to building love-based relationships. A love-based community that nurtures all of its own does not happen when people don't have the basic necessities and view one another as potential threats to what they want to secure for themselves. In the prototype communities that I founded many thousands of years ago in different parts of the creation, I started them out with the Total Abundance Project. When they realized that through working together harmoniously, they could manifest a quality of life that was far better than what they had had before, when they were living in a dog-eat-dog social reality, they were receptive to working with me on building love-based relationships. They realized that love-based relationships increased the power that they had as a community to bring in the miracles that could one day afford them all total abundance. They then stopped competing and began valuing the unique spiritual abilities of one another and supporting their development so that they could have a completely well-trained and balanced team of heaven agents working together to manifest total abundance for the community as a whole. They then moved on to the Life Purpose Fulfillment Project, which occurs when they uphold the standards of heaven that enable every being in the community to fulfill their life purpose. As a natural development of their newfound ability to recognize the unique abilities of each person in their community, they began to create the social support to enable every person to live to their full potential and fulfill their mission in life. Instead of discriminating against one another and keeping others down in order to feel more important themselves, they began to nurture every life, knowing that it was important to the welfare of everyone in the community and to the quality of their own personal life. As they worked more efficiently as a team on supporting every member of the community and developing the teamwork that was bringing in the miracles that manifested total abundance, they began to realize that their health was improving. The miracles enabled them to heal from the disconnection from the source and to build the love connection. And as they built this, they began to experience more source love. As their suits were replete with greater amounts of source love, they began to heal from the disease of fragmentation and began to free themselves from the diseases that had plagued them on mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual levels. The more they worked to support the work of the source to build total abundance, the more miracles they brought through to establish the correct energies for total abundance. In the end, they achieved perfect health, establishing a way of life with no disease, no accidents, no aging, and a crossing over at the end of their lives where they just walked out of their life and into their next life in a peaceful celebration of the successful completion of their mission. As they focused on the love connection with the source, they developed an inner heaven experience. From this inner heaven experience, they developed the strength to work on the projects of building total abundance, love-based relationships, life purpose fulfillment, and perfect health. The more heaven they built for themselves and others in their community on the outer plane, the more they began to experience the outer heaven experience. When I founded the prototype communities, it was not at a time when I could help them to travel the journey of reconnection to develop the love connection with the source at its highest level. There was too much danger from the negativity during that time frame. Without the development of this love connection, they could only develop the heaven experience at an inner and outer level. Now that I've completed my prototype of how to travel the journey of reconnection to the highest level of the love connection, it is possible for them and for all others to go not only to the highest level of the inner and outer heaven experience, but to achieve the ultimate heaven experience. In the ultimate heaven experience, you experience the heaven that your suit is experiencing in the manifest world and the heaven that your soul is experiencing in the unmanifest level of reality, where it is retired to free itself from the suffering in the manifest world. Your soul is linked to your suit, but is no longer trapped in your suit, having to experience only what your suit is experiencing. In the ultimate heaven experience, you experience both the joy of your suit and your soul for a level of the heaven experience that far surpasses the heaven experience to be had at the inner or outer levels only. So what the Source helps you to achieve is the total abundance of being able to live the heaven experience in every moment of your life and being surrounded by a community of others living the heaven experience that enables every individual and the community as a whole to experience the highest level of true happiness. Only in this well-choreographed dance of life is there the synchronicity that makes for the heaven experience that is both unique and perfect for every individual, and also perfect for the shared aspects of the heaven experience that constitute the structure of the social life of the community. Because no one is thinking up the sequence of events out of their personal or collective stories that are supposed to add up to the heaven of true happiness, but they're relying on the intelligence of the source for the staging of these events, the heaven that is manifest is perfect. Beings can relax and rely on the continuous flow of the heaven experience to structure their daily lives, providing them with whatever they need to live the heaven experience in every moment of their lives. The equation that sums it up is total abundance equals living the heaven experience. Now let's turn our attention to understanding what it takes to live the heaven experience. The way that a heaven experience opportunity manifests in your life is through the source creating heaven experience code. This code gives rise to a safe heaven experience space, into which the miracles come that manifest a heaven happening, which you experience, giving you the heaven experience opportunity. The heaven happening might be an inner moment of bliss or understanding or communion with the source, or it might be an outer event that is carefully staged to enable you to rise to the challenge of your mission. A complex social heaven happening requires the orchestration of many other beings, material resources, correct timing, and control over the quality of the energy field in which the heaven happening is to occur. Every heaven experience is an opportunity to experience the full range of the heaven experience that the Source has created for you and others. To the extent that you are equipped and trained and attentive, you can realize 100% of this heaven experience opportunity. Now let's take a closer look at how a heaven experience opportunity manifests. When the Source creates a heaven happening, it first creates the code for the heaven experience that is to be manifested. The code for this experience then generates the heaven experience space, which is represented here by the yellow square. The heaven experience code then structures the flow of events that enables the miracles to come in that are needed to orchestrate the event. These miracles bring in the stage props for the heaven happening that is to unfold. These stage props might be inner thoughts and emotions that lead to an inner heaven happening, or they might be orchestration of a complex social event, complete with those who are to be there, the material resources needed for the event itself, and all the special effects that make it a heaven happening. The props are symbolized here by the blue squares. While they may be the ordinary things of life, such as food, clothing, financial resources, and the like, they are imbued with the energy of the miracles that bring them together to stage the heaven happening. When the heaven happening has been fully manifested, those with the right spiritual equipment and training can tune into the heaven happening and have a full range heaven experience. Those who are unequipped and untrained can feel lifted up by the joy currents that run through every heaven experience and can break free of the constrictive energies of the hell experience that limits their understanding of the heaven that is possible in their lives. When the Source creates the heaven experience, it is the experience itself that is created in its entirety. The props that go into supporting this experience are built into the experience itself. The Source never creates just the props and hopes that the experience will follow. The experience itself is what is created. The props are used to stage the heaven happening, in which you can have the heaven experience. The important thing to keep in mind with every heaven experience is that it is an opportunity to live the heaven experience at its peak level. Whether you only tap into part of the potential heaven experience or realize the full 100% of the experience depends on how well equipped you are, how well trained you are, and how attentive and diligent you are in the moment. You could be the best equipped and trained heaven agent who zones out during a potential heaven experience and misses the moment to bring it through to the 100% mark in your life. Those following their Source-created mission work with the Source to generate heaven happenings that enable them and others in the universal community to have the opportunity to experience the heaven that life was intended to be. In a prototype community, for instance, every inner moment, every interaction, every family and community event is a heaven happening that continuously provides them with an opportunity to have the heaven experience. They are very diligent in their attentiveness to the clues given to them so that they can realize the potential of heaven in every moment. When a person is following their source-created mission, the focus is not on being attached to securing the props or the experience. They understand that the source creates and delivers not the props in isolation, but the experience, the heaven experience, which is whatever it needs to be in that moment. They are open to whatever that experience might be, knowing that it will take them on the next step of their adventure to fulfill their mission in life. To the source, any experience that is perfect is of heaven. It might be an experience of healing that is barely perceived by the person since it is suit repair that needs to be done and may not require their conscious involvement. Or it might be an experience of learning something, which is carefully staged through source-given thoughts and emotions, culminating in the insight. Some of these moments might involve flashbacks to unpleasant events that then trigger the understanding of the source perspective on the event that enables the person to release from the event and heal and move forward in their life. Other moments might be exquisite experiences, the like of which could never happen in the outer world, but which are experienced in one's inner world with such vividness that they become treasured life experiences, as cherished as any experience that could be experienced on the outer plane. A heaven experience might be a sequence of events that results in the successful completion of a project on the outer plane. It might be a family event that's pure heaven and that is recognized as such. It might be a challenging moment when you encounter the opposition to your safety and success by the negativity and work with the source and other heaven agents to overcome the opposition and make the world safer for heaven to be built. In short, any kind of source-designed and delivered experience that is what you need to have total abundance in your life is what the source calls a heaven experience. As I've mentioned, some of them are ecstatic and overwhelmingly beautiful and fulfilling, and others are encounters with the things that you have to deal with in order to remove obstacles in your path. So what I mean by heavenly is perfectly designed and delivered. When you are living the heaven experience, your stance is neutrality and a willingness to become what is needed to support the work of the source. In this way, you are not interposing your own itinerary on what is happening or trying to evaluate the experience from a set of self-constructed story standards. Instead, you are open to following the lead of the source and are asking to understand what you need to understand in order to do your part in participating in the heaven experience. Now let's take a look at what it looks like when a person is pursuing a story mission. The story mission begins with their personal story, which may be shaped and limited by the cultural story, but is still the story they accept about who they are and what it takes for someone like them to be happy. In cultures where there is a lot of freedom to define the story of one's life, the personal story can become quite elaborate and differ from the personal stories of others in the culture. In cultures where there is hardly any latitude to define a personal story, whatever story a person adopts based on the roles that they play in that culture is their personal story. It might be the role of the underdog, a victim, an abuser, a martyr, a high achiever, a leader. Whatever it is, the story becomes like pseudocode that starts to draw to itself what fits in with the story. Due to the fragmentation of consciousness in those disconnected from the source and pursuing their own self-defined story of happiness, there can be multiple personal stories vying for power in the suit. For instance, one fragment that generally colors the conscious mind of the person may be very intent on being successful in the story world on the outer plane. Another fragment which exists in the subconscious mind might be defining success as failing every time, so that whatever sanction that it fears will fall on it if it succeeds on the outer plane is avoided. So the suit goes forward in life with two different stories trying to steer the suit in opposite directions. Each story seeks to fulfill itself. It does this by sending out energy to attach to the people and things of the world that it needs to play out the story drama that it has created for itself. What it attaches to become the props in its story play. These props are manifestations of the hell consciousness that plagues anyone who's experiencing the fear and greed of the story world, grasping at whatever level of happiness is possible given their position in the social structure. However beautiful and expensive the props secured, they still carry the energy of the hell consciousness that procured them and conceives of the experience of gratification that is desired. These story props are used to build a structure for the experience of happiness that is sought. Because they are carrying the low vibration of greed and fear and the willingness to do harm to defend one's self-interests, they build a space for a hell experience. From this space, a hell happening is manifested, which leads to a hell experience opportunity. Some involved in the hell happening may buy into the hell happening and have a full-blown hell experience. Those living the heaven experience can sidestep the negativity in the hell happening by staying neutral and drawing on the staging afforded them by their ongoing heaven experience to continue on in their path undamaged by the experience. Hell happenings can occur along a spectrum from mild to horrific. The mild hell happenings are frustrating and disappointing events, and the horrific ones can be those that manifest as wars and crimes, discrimination, abuse, poverty, disease, and the like. A good example of a mild hell happening is the attempt to stage the happy family get-together in the holiday season. The props of a nice meal and a comfortable setting don't always add up to a happy family event because the strife between family members that persists throughout the year colors the occasion. Many people go through depression during the holidays because of their inability to match up their personal story to the story that is actually structuring family interactions. For them, the family get-together becomes a hell happening because it engenders the suffering that is characteristic of the hell experience. More serious hell happenings occur when people make the wrong life choices and end up creating traumatic and often expensive disasters in their lives. Marrying the wrong person and having children that are caught between two households is one example. This is a hell happening for the husband and wife and for the children as well. Another example is the hell happening of someone getting into a career that everyone around them encouraged them to pursue, only to find out years later, after many years of education and job experience, that they can't stand it anymore and have to start all over with another career. Even when the props that people secure for themselves do stage what they expect, they often find themselves disappointed in the end result, experiencing a sense of meaninglessness that baffles them because they have succeeded in pulling off the manifestation of their personal story episode. This is because they don't know what is really going to make them happy. Instead, they manifest the props that they think will result in happiness. The props that they select are colored by their hell consciousness that comes from all of their attachments to the things of the world that they hope will make them happy. When attachment is involved, hell consciousness colors every event, however artfully or opulently staged it might be. Your suit, which is your body-mind, has been socialized to think that happiness is just around the next corner in the Mad Hatter shopping and consuming mode of the story world. It will need some technical support from the source to shift gears to get out of the habit of generating hell happenings that engender the hell experience into manifesting only heaven happenings and the heaven experience that arises from them. When I started the prototype communities, I had to create special spiritual equipment to enable them to free themselves from the greed that drove their personal lives and their economy. The equipment that I gave them operated well within the protected spiritual space of their geographical communities. In this lifetime, I've developed an upgraded version of this equipment that will enable beings not living in the secluded spiritual space of a prototype community to achieve the same result of being able to transition out of the hell experience into living the heaven experience. Since it is not possible to live the heaven experience without the requisite spiritual equipment and miracle-based training, Let's take a look at the technical side of what is needed. The first step toward living the heaven experience is to enter into source care. When you enter into source care, the source surrounds your manifestation, which appears on the inner plane in the shape of a transformer, with a nurturing and protective source care transformer. In this source drawing, your manifestation is depicted by the white transformer that is transforming the source energy that comes into it, which is depicted in this drawing as the white ball of energy, into the material energy, which is depicted as the yellow ball of energy that's coming out of the top of the transformer. The material energy that your manifestation produces is what you give to the source to ground the miracles that the source creates for you, so these miracles can enter into your life in the material world. The source care transformer, which is the blue transformer, transforms source power into a field of heaven consciousness that surrounds your manifestation. Your individual field of consciousness that we will discuss later exists within your transformer and is supported by the heaven consciousness produced by the source care transformer that surrounds it. The second step to living the heaven experience is having the spiritual space in which to experience it. Without a spiritual space in which to have the heaven experience, your consciousness is unable to experience it. It is like a computer that doesn't have enough hard drive space to show a complex graphic. If there isn't enough hard drive space, you can't see the graphic at all. In the same way, if you don't have enough spiritual space, you can't receive, store, and process the complex download of the heaven experience. The negativity has long understood the importance of an expanded and protected spiritual space for experiencing the heaven experience. They've worked overtime to contract the spiritual space around a person so that it's too small to receive the download of the heaven experience. When the spiritual space is severely contracted, as it is with most beings, the spiritual intelligence system is significantly impaired. The lights of the spiritual intelligence system go out, and the only level of intelligence that is generally left relates to what the being can perceive with their five senses. Base emotions and desires become very tempting when there isn't enough spiritual intelligence activated to long for something finer and more complex and more of heaven. Consciousness becomes spiritually fragmented, not allowing an integrated picture of reality to be viewed by an integrated consciousness. The fragments of consciousness then pursue very small picture pleasures, one fragment warring with another fragment over what base pleasure is going to be the one that the suit chooses to pursue. In the contracted spiritual space, people experience psychological and spiritual pain that they can't diagnose or assuage. Some try to escape it by developing addictive habits to drugs and alcohol that take their mind off the pain and focuses them on some sensation that their limited spiritual intelligence can grasp. Even though they know that the chemicals they are using are harmful to them, they choose them because they don't know what else to do. Others try to pursue the fulfillment of their personal story with more gusto, hoping that this will somehow add up to meaning in their life. Given the contracted spiritual space that a being has, the first step has to be to create an expanded, stable spiritual space in which to experience heaven. This correct spiritual space is depicted here by the yellow square. When a person embarks on the journey to develop the love connection with the Source gives them a spiritual space which it defines on their behalf so that they can regain their full expansion as spiritual intelligences, light up the lights of their spiritual intelligence, and begin to experience the heaven that is created for them by the Source. Once they enter into the spiritual space of the heaven experience, they are ready to travel their path to ultimate spiritual healing, which reconnects them to the love of the Source and rebuilds the love connection with the Source that was broken by the pursuit of the personal story in the story world. The path to ultimate spiritual healing is depicted here by the white line. It is through traveling the path to ultimate spiritual healing that you heal from everything that is blocking you from achieving total abundance in your life. In this source drawing, you can see that the heaven experience is staging a heaven happening to deal with some form of adversity that is an obstacle on the path of the being. The being in source care in the heaven experience field is receiving a miracle from the source, transmitted from the structure of the heaven experience. This is symbolized by the yellow arrow going from the protective structure of the heaven experience to the being, whose manifestation is represented by the white transformer. This miracle helps the suit to release any attachment, which is symbolized by the black line, that it might have to the external negativity, which is symbolized by the black ball. This external negative force might be an abusive relationship, an interplane entity or network of entities that stages misfortunes in their life, an illness which is backed up by the negativity that supplies it with the power and implants that enable it to manifest in their suit, or a self-destructive pattern that is reinforced by external forces, such as social relationships that promote addictive behaviors, such as alcohol abuse. The heaven experience is also sending out a heaven ray, which is symbolized in this source drawing by the large yellow arrow. This heaven ray is designed to dissipate the power of the external negative force. If this negative force is a person in a being's life who is in full attack mode on the inner and outer plane, this heaven ray will break up and dissipate the negative energy that is being directed at the being. This will help free the being from this attack and will also help the suit of the attacking person to be cleared of the hell consciousness that promotes such an attack. As you can see from this example, the heaven experience is not only about experiencing a heaven high. While it can take you to the most enthralling experiences of your life, it gets you there by clearing away the obstacles on your path. This means dealing with the negativity within your own suit that is connected to the negativity in the world that marshals its efforts to defeat your attempt to escape from the hell experience into the heaven experience. The negativity has a vested interest in keeping you attached to story desires, because every attachment is an open door through which they can link into your suit and harvest your energies. If you release your attachments completely and only experience heaven, then they have lost their ability to harvest you. They therefore put forth effort to get you to open the door again to story desires and attachments so you can let them in to seize more control over your suit. Until you have closed every door through releasing every attachment, you will have to deal with their opposition to your escape from their harvesting net. Once you are in the heaven experience space, however, and are receiving the heaven experience beamed into you by the source, you receive the miracles of understanding and support that enable you to release your attachments and repel the external opposition. If you see this source support as an important part of the total abundance that you need in your life, then you don't try to shy away from such heaven experience opportunities, but instead remain neutral and competent in your work to do your mission, to realize the full potential of each such heaven experience opportunity, so you can make rapid progress on your path to ultimate spiritual healing. Here you can see that the person has successfully dealt with the obstacle on the path and is ready to progress on his journey. Other kinds of heaven happenings are skill set opportunities. The source sends you the understandings that enable you to develop the skill sets that you need to live the heaven experience in your everyday life. These might be skill sets to create the heaven of a love-based family, or a career that enables you to fulfill your mission in life. These inner heaven experiences are represented by the arrow from the heaven experience space into your manifestation, which is the white transformer. The heaven experience also stages outer plane life experiences that enable you to practice your skill sets. In this way, you can learn what no human teacher can teach you about how to be true to who you really are, your true identity as the soul, and how to fulfill your unique spiritual mission. Since no one has a mission like yours, and no other being in the entire creation has your unique spiritual function and miracle-based abilities, it is necessary to learn directly from the source how to be you and live the life that you were born to live. The source's method for teaching you is the flow of heaven experiences that stage the miracles that come in and help you to develop your abilities, and the life experiences where you can practice with the skills that you have learned. In this way, every being in the creation has the direct source support that they need to become the heaven that they were created to be. In this source drawing, I'm depicting the structure of a social heaven happening. First, your heaven experience sends you the prompts, by which I mean the source communications and code, to participate in the heaven happening, if it is one that you're to participate in. These prompts are symbolized by the yellow arrow. Some social heaven happenings are ones that involve you, and others are ones that you help to stage for other beings in the universal community to help them experience a transformative moment of heaven that will help them to understand that they have a choice and could choose the heaven experience rather than continuing on in whatever level of the hell experience they are currently experiencing. Second, your heaven experience sends out a heaven ray to all who are invited by the Source to participate in a particular heaven happening. Beings of all species can be called to a heaven happening. Some might be human, some might be plants, animals, Mother Earth, or beings from other parts of the universal community. These are the beings that your heaven experience sends out a heaven ray to invite them to participate in the heaven happening. This heaven ray contains the DNA of the heaven happening itself. The DNA is the spiritual genetic code that can be easily understood by their inner intelligence, which is the aspect of their spiritual intelligence that knows how to work with the miracles of the Source. As beings choose to respond to the call of the Source, they gather together and play the parts given to them by the Source for the heaven happening. They know how to play their parts because the code contains the information needed to participate in the heaven happening, which is like a well-choreographed dance structured by the code. They become like biological DNA, doing their parts flawlessly in the dance of life that is taking place on the social level. Magical and transformative moments occur in many of these heaven happenings. Hardened abusers can suddenly catch the drift of the heaven happening and become generous and kind-hearted people, willing to help the underdog that they would ordinarily have mistreated without any remorse. Social prejudices that enforce race and gender discrimination can be lifted, and people can have a heaven moment of reacting to one another in a love-based way. Those who respond to the call of the Source and receive the gift of a heaven happening are changed in a fundamental way. They have lived the heaven experience, even if but for the brief episode of the heaven happening, and they don't ever go back to their old ways of life. They have expanded and can't be shoved back by the negativity into the small, contracted spiritual space of the story world. They have experienced the beauty of a Source-created, integrated social reality, and they don't want to be at the mercy of the dog-eat-dog, free-for-all social reality of the story world. They are like people who have had a near-death experience and have transcended into a beautiful, transcendent experience of life and never forget what they learn in that near-death experience, which is often that what life is about is the love that they live in their lives and not about all of the stuff and status that they acquire. The Source plan for the ultimate spiritual healing of the universal community is the delivery of heaven happenings by heaven agents who are living the heaven experience to those who have yet to awaken from the nightmare of the hell experience, which they believe is all that life has to offer them. The heaven experience provides the technical structure needed to stage a Source-designed heaven happening. It was this kind of technology that was used in the prototype communities to help the communities rise up out of the hell experience and begin celebrating the heaven experience together and cooperating to build the total abundance that they had been formerly trying to get only for themselves at the expense of one another. Heaven happenings are a gift of love from the Source and the heaven agents to other beings to help them escape from the contracted spiritual space that prevents them from ever accessing the full range of their natural spiritual intelligence. The heaven happening breaks the prison cell of the contracted spiritual space so their spiritual intelligence can expand and can see a bigger picture. When their consciousness is demented in the contracted spiritual space, it often lacks the range of intelligence to understand a bigger picture, and therefore can't make a decision to choose it. Once beings are free from the contracted spiritual space, they can respond to other heaven happenings and learn more from the source communications and code in each one of them. Through these experiences of the heaven happenings, they begin to evolve toward a heaven way of life. At every step of the way, they must decide which road to follow: the road to the mirage of total abundance, held out by the story culture, or the road to the total abundance that the Source gives them if they follow the Source-given path and do their part in their mission. Heaven happenings are only opportunities. They do not in and of themselves cause transformational change. They are an opportunity for transformational change. Now let's take a closer look at what the heaven experience is like on the social level. Here, the individual heaven experiences of a man and a woman have brought them together to live a shared heaven experience as they begin a life together. And they are represented by the two transformers in the two heaven experience spaces. This shared heaven experience is created for them by the Source and provides them with an alternative structure to the usual story scenarios that play out when people marry in order to fulfill their personal stories about marriage. Their life together becomes a daily series of well-staged heaven happenings that enable them to learn how to love one another, release from their former personal stories, and build a heaven way of life into which they can bring in the children that also come into their lives through a series of heaven happenings. In this source drawing, the children have arrived and the whole family is living the heaven experience within the field of the heaven experience created for their life together. In this drawing, you can see how a whole community can each be living their individual heaven experience and contributing to creating the heaven happening that forms the action of the heaven experience of the community on a social level. The choreography of community interactions are like those in the prototype communities, where each individual starts their day following the source guidance that they receive with regard to the mission of their day. When it is time to go to someone's house to help them with some task, they do so. When it's their time to leave, they go where their mission takes them next. The person who they were helping doesn't try to guilt-trip them into staying, but accepts that this is right action on their part and in keeping with their individual mission, and with the choreography of the heaven experience for the community as a whole. They themselves are neutral and open to the next episode of their personal adventure. In this way, the beings in the community can work harmoniously together doing complex tasks that bring about heaven not only in their geographical community, but in the universal community. This is because the heaven happenings that they help to generate are meant not only for themselves, but for others in the universal community who have not yet awakened to the possibility of total abundance. In this way, they have, though small in number compared to the number of beings living in the story world, have kept the creation from devolving to where it might have devolved, given the rapid increase in the disease of fragmentation. They haven't been able to counteract the decline in the creation, but they've slowed it down. They've helped the Source to buy time for beings to begin learning that their story way of life is not sustainable, and to begin turning to the Source for the Source solutions that will help them to heal from the damage done to them and to learn how to build a world that is sustainable. Now let's take a closer look at how the heaven experience helps those who are caught in the story world, pursuing their personal and cultural stories at the expense of themselves and all others. Here we have the heaven experience at the social level, which is operating in a more expanded space, and the hell experience at the social level, which is in a more contracted space. The path between them is the path to ultimate spiritual healing. Out of the collective power of all of the heaven agents living the heaven experience, heaven happenings can be manifested which are more powerful than the heaven happenings that any one individual heaven agent can help to manifest. These heaven happenings can be experienced by both the heaven agents and those living in the story world. In this drawing, you can see that one of the beings in the story world has experienced the heaven happening and has been transformed. The greed has abated, hence the change to a lighter color of orange. He is not entirely free of greed, but is willing to travel the path to ultimate spiritual healing in order to connect to the heaven experience that he has briefly experienced in the heaven happening. His first decision is to enter into source care, which is symbolized by the source care transformer. His second decision is to enter into the protected space of the heaven experience, which is symbolized by the yellow square. In this drawing, he has left the story world and has entered into source care and into the heaven experience, and has started on his path to ultimate spiritual healing toward the collective heaven experience that others are enjoying. As he progresses on his journey, one of the most greed-filled beings in the story world notes that he has escaped, possibly because he was one of the beings that he was harvesting, since those at the top of the story world are harvesting those at the lower levels. He looks to see how he escaped and connects to a heaven happening. As a result of his connection to the heaven happening, he begins to recognize that running a greed current is self-defeating, and he makes the decision to join the other being who has escaped, and to also enter into the collective heaven experience, which he can see is far better than the life that he is living, even though he is at the top level of the story world. He enters into source care, gets into the space of the heaven experience, and begins traveling the path to ultimate spiritual healing. Next, the source expands the spiritual space of the heaven experience community to make room for the new arrivals. When they enter into the more expanded and powerful spiritual space, they add greater power to the heaven happenings that can be manifested. These heaven happenings become powerful enough to draw the attention of many beings in the story world. As these beings experience the heaven happening, they too release from their greed fixation and become ready to travel the path to ultimate spiritual healing into the heaven experience. In this drawing, you can see that they have become a lighter color because they are running less of a greed current. As more beings enter into the heaven experience, this increases the power of the heaven experience to help others to break free from the oppression of the negativity that clamps down on their spiritual space in the story world and prevents them from seeing a big enough picture to know that they are traveling fast toward an endpoint of ultimate self-destruction instead of toward the fulfillment of their desire for total abundance. Now let's talk about the spiritual equipment that you need to have the heaven experience. The spiritual equipment that you need is the Source Care Transformer that carries you on your journey to total abundance. You need the spiritual space of the heaven experience that enables you to have the space in which to manifest your full range of spiritual intelligence and to build a life that is in keeping with who you really are. You also need the Heaven Experience disc that transmits in the Heaven Experience code, miracles, and source communications for each heaven happening and each heaven experience. You need the field of consciousness equipment that enables you to have heaven consciousness and pick up on heaven experiences. You need spiritual genetic code that matches up with the incoming code of the heaven experiences. You need the miracle ring that engineers the miracle-friendly conditions needed for the heaven happenings. And you need the miracle tools for tracking your progress in realizing 100% of every heaven experience opportunity. So let's take a look at each of these pieces of spiritual equipment. I've already introduced you to the Source Care Transformer and the spiritual space of the heaven experience in which you travel on your path of ultimate spiritual healing, which takes you to the highest levels of total abundance. Let's take a look at the Heaven Experience disc. This disc is what produces a heaven experience opportunity. The disc remains in source care out of the reach of all beings and projects in the heaven experience to a being. The Heaven Experience disc always sends forth a full-range heaven experience opportunity. Whether a being can experience the full range of the heaven that is possible depends on whether they have all of the spiritual equipment and training that is needed, and also the state of their existing spiritual equipment, such as their individual field of consciousness. So let's take a look at the kind of field of consciousness spiritual equipment that you will need. The individual field of consciousness is depicted in this source drawing as the white square set in the blue square, which is the source care field. This field of consciousness exists in your manifestation, which is the white transformer that we saw earlier in the source drawings inside the blue transformer of source care. I've described this piece of equipment in great detail in the source communication video entitled The Source Plan for Transitioning into the Source Perfected World. I will only review some of the highlights here so you can see how it relates to the equipment that you need for the Total Abundance Project. Had all gone well and beings had painted on this field of consciousness, which is like a canvas, the source-designed picture of heaven that was given to them, they would have manifested heaven in their lives, since whatever is painted on the field of consciousness manifests in their life. This field of consciousness is the manifestation field, where a being builds the heaven that they will materialize in their life. What is on this field of consciousness manifests the abundance that they have in their life. Ideally, beings would have gifted this self-made consciousness that was source designed to the source in exchange for the gift of source-created consciousness that is the only kind of consciousness that can afford them the heaven experience. They had wanted initially, at the beginning of the creation, to express their love to the source by manifesting the source-designed picture of heaven on their individual field of consciousness, with the express intent to then transition into the source-created consciousness, which they knew was the only kind of consciousness that could be versatile and complex enough to manifest the heaven consciousness. Their intent was to end up with a field of consciousness that looks like this. In this source drawing, the field of consciousness has transitioned from being a canvas on which they paint their self-made picture of heaven in accordance with the source plan, to being an open field through which flows the complex and dynamic heaven experience created for them, moment to moment by the source. When they have the heaven experience manifesting on their field of consciousness, then they have the highest level of heaven manifesting in their life. This level of the heaven experience is only achieved when you reach the highest level of source care. At this level, you transition from being a material energy manifestation into being an intelligence manifestation. Intelligence manifestations are capable of experiencing 100% of all of the heaven experiences that are possible for the source to create. Material energy manifestations are only capable of experiencing about 8% of all the heaven experiences that the source can create. In the beginning of the creation, every manifestation was a material energy manifestation. In the source-perfected universe model of the creation that the source has initiated to enable the creation to survive, all manifestations that survive in the time ahead will have to make the transition into being an intelligence manifestation. In an intelligence manifestation reality, the content on the field of consciousness can change rapidly, changing the outer plane world equally rapidly. This allows for a level of total abundance that is not possible with a material energy manifestation. Now let's take a look at what happened when beings didn't follow the source plan to paint a picture of heaven that the source designed for them on their canvas. What happened instead is that beings decided to paint their own idea of heaven on the canvas of their individual field of consciousness and created hell consciousness instead of heaven consciousness. This manifested the hell experience instead of the heaven experience in their lives. Together, they created a collective field of hell consciousness that obscured the heaven consciousness offered to the being to support their development of heaven consciousness. Hell consciousness manifests when a being is self-centered, out to attach to whatever they think a person like them needs in order to be happy. The more they attach to the people and the things of the world, the more they get attached to by these same things. The fears, angers, grief, addictions, and insanity of others bleeds over into their individual field of consciousness, filling it up with hell consciousness that isn't even of their own making. Over lifetimes of acquiring the hell consciousness of others who bled into their field of consciousness, or who crashed into the field, using the real estate of the field to manifest what they wanted in their own lives, a being develops a field of consciousness that is very mutated and hard to clean up. Old patterns of thought from themselves and others, often from previous lifetimes, continue to manifest the bewildering array of unfortunate events in their lives, such as illnesses, accidents, relationships that are problematic, and the like. For instance, somebody who has been abused as a child carries the imprint on their field of consciousness of this abuse. If they don't clear this imprint off of their field of consciousness, it will draw to them abusers who are capable of replicating the abusive relationships of their childhood. The bottom line is that this field of consciousness has to be completely cleaned up if total abundance is to manifest. It has to be filled with heaven consciousness if the heaven of total abundance is to manifest from this field of consciousness in your life. The process of clearing the field of consciousness goes in stages. In this source drawing, the field has less hell consciousness, but still enough to manifest the hell experience in a person's life. At this stage, the field of consciousness is free of the dangerous levels of hell consciousness that cause misfortune, but it is still not ready to manifest total abundance in a person's life. In the prototype communities, in order to speed up the work on building the heaven of total abundance, I gave them field of consciousness spiritual equipment that would enable them to both clear up their own personal fields of consciousness and clear up the fields of consciousness of others in their community and their collective field of consciousness. This equipment enabled them to achieve total abundance in less than 29 years, and from there to build the heaven of love-based relationships, life purpose fulfillment, and perfect health. I have now created a new upgraded version of the field of consciousness spiritual equipment that I gave them so that the universal community can work on the total abundance project in an accelerated manner. Let's take a look at this field of consciousness equipment and how it works to enable beings to live the heaven experience. The biggest piece of field of consciousness equipment is the one that I've created for the universal community. It is the perfected field of consciousness. It is like a universal grid that has taken a high-voltage charge of joy energy sent to it by the source. Joy is the most high-speed volatile energy the source produces. It is what enables consciousness to expand and experience the heaven of true happiness. The next pieces of equipment represent the spiritual equipment that I give to an individual. The first piece of equipment is the resonating field of consciousness. The second is the auxiliary field of consciousness. And the third piece of equipment is the individual field of consciousness, which is what they already have in order to even exist in a manifest form. The resonating and auxiliary fields of consciousness are perfected fields of consciousness. The individual field of consciousness is blackened by the hell consciousness that most beings have allowed to come into the field. Now let's take a look at how this equipment works to enable an individual to have a heaven experience opportunity, and over time to increase the amount of the heaven experience opportunity that they can experience. The first step is when the source sends a joy charge sufficient for the heaven experience opportunity to the resonating field of consciousness. This prepares the grid of this field of consciousness for the heaven experience by setting up the joy current in the grid. The next step is the delivery of the download of the heaven experience opportunity code to the resonating field from the heaven experience disk, which is backed by a surge of source power represented by the white energy around it. The third step occurs when the resonating field processes the heaven experience opportunity and sends down a signal to the perfected universal field of consciousness to proceed to the next step, which is the joy activation. When the joy activation occurs, a heaven happening occurs on the inner and outer plane. This is a sequence of inner thoughts, emotions, and experiences that correspond with events that occur on the outer plane that match up to what is happening internally. This complete heaven experience is what is experienced by a perfected heaven agent consciousness created by the Source that resides in the auxiliary field of consciousness. This perfected heaven agent consciousness is the Source-created representative of the soul of the being, as it would optimally manifest if the soul were represented 100%. This heaven agent identity holds the space for a heaven agent identity to be formed in the individual field of consciousness where it can be fully experienced by the being. This perfected consciousness then sends a signal of its complete experience to the individual field of consciousness. Because the individual field is filled up with hell consciousness, only a partial heaven experience is registered there. But since the joy current runs through even this partial heaven experience, the individual field of consciousness begins to clear up. Source joy burns off hell consciousness, which fragments to the point of disintegration in the presence of the highly integrated and high-speed energy of source joy. You can see in this drawing that the individual field of consciousness is now, after having received the joy charge through the heaven experience opportunity sent it, is less darkened by hell consciousness and is becoming clearer. As a result, more of the heaven experience is registered in this field of consciousness. This means that the being is picking up on more of the experience and that this experience can begin manifesting heaven in the life of the being on the inner and outer plane. When the individual field of consciousness becomes completely clear, as symbolized by the blue line, which means that the field of consciousness has transitioned from being a material energy manifestation to being an intelligence manifestation, then the full heaven experience can be experienced. Once the full heaven experience can be experienced in the individual field of consciousness, the resonating field is no longer needed by the heaven agent for their personal use. The auxiliary field becomes a receiving and amplifying device supporting the completely clear individual field of consciousness. The joy charge that is sent from the perfected universal field of consciousness is sent directly to the auxiliary field of consciousness, and the heaven experience disk begins sending the heaven experience opportunity download directly to the auxiliary field of consciousness as well. The perfected heaven agent identity in the auxiliary field can now manifest in the individual field of consciousness, giving the being what it needs to have an integrated identity that enables it to do its mission in life. So that's how you end up with the full heaven experience at the level of the individual field of consciousness. Now the resonating field can begin focusing on manifesting heaven happenings for the sake of building family, community, and helping those still trapped in the hell consciousness of the story world. As you can see, the heaven experience opportunity for the community is being sent to the resonating field of consciousness, which then resonates it back to the perfected universal field of consciousness, which then manifests the heaven happening. The heaven happening sends a source communication which contains the code how to participate in the heaven happening to the field of consciousness of a person caught in the story world, which is represented by the black line here. The source communication is represented by the yellow square. When the source communication is received, the person has an opportunity to have a heaven happening experience. They are unable to have the heaven experience itself since they lack the spiritual equipment to have one, but what they learned from participating in a heaven happening helps them to experience the energies of heaven, particularly the joy energy that suffuses every heaven experience, even those that are dealing with dissipating negative energies. The joy energies are what free the consciousness of the being caught in the story world so it can begin to see a bigger picture and choose to live the heaven experience itself. As the person experiences the heaven happening, they break out of the contracted spiritual space of the story world and begin to realize that their personal story is not reality, only the structure they have constructed for themselves to feel like they understand reality. This realization begins to clear their individual field of consciousness, which is, in this drawing, becoming less black, although still gray with the remaining hell consciousness on the field. Now let's take a closer look at the different kinds of consciousness in the individual field of consciousness. There are three kinds of consciousness there: the essence consciousness, which is always perfect and source connected, the soul level of consciousness, which is where the heaven agent identity needs to be developed to represent the intentions of the soul and to fulfill the mission. And then there's the suit consciousness, which is the consciousness of the soul of the suit, which is a separate soul from the soul of the being occupying the suit, as well as the consciousness of the suit with all of its functioning parts. As long as a being has a basic source connection, their essence consciousness is in a state of communion with the source. If this level of consciousness is ever disconnected from the source, then the soul unlinks from the suit and it ceases to exist as a spiritual intelligence in the manifest world. Generally, when a person first enters into source care, their soul consciousness is very poorly developed since they have been developing their story character identity instead. Once the consciousness of the soul is allowed to be expressed in the suit, this level of consciousness will readily go to the highest level of source care. The suit consciousness is the most difficult level of the consciousness to evolve. It is deluded into thinking that the story character identity that it has created for itself to fulfill the story mission is the true identity in the life. It generally fights off the heaven agent identity that represents the soul because the heaven agent identity wishes to pursue the source-created mission that the soul signed up for before the suit was manifested for the life. Once the suit was born, it began to push the soul into the background and try to define its own reality and develop its own personal story. Without the assistance of the heaven experience, the suit consciousness can't on its own see through its own self-created personal story to recognize all of its attachments to the story world. This is because attachments lead to spiritual fragmentation, and there's so many fragments, each with its own opinion about what's important, that it's very difficult for the conscious mind to referee the attachments, most of which exist on an unconscious level. It is therefore important that the person enter into the flow of the heaven experience, which deftly releases these attachments and reintegrates the consciousness, a task that the conscious mind can never do since many of the fragments date back to billions of lifetimes ago to attachments that rest on a story character logic that has nothing in common with the story character running the suit in the present life. Another important variable to be considered is whether the field of consciousness and the manifestation of the being in its entirety is a material energy manifestation or an intelligence manifestation. In a material energy manifestation, the three fields of consciousness are very separate from one another. If there is negative content on the fields, this is very materialized and has to be removed on a very material level. The purity of the essence level does not improve the quality of the other two fields. It just remains in its separate field. This makes it very difficult for the suit to finally enter into the full level of source care. In an intelligence manifestation, the essence level of consciousness generates the soul and the suit levels of consciousness. If changes are to be made in the soul or suit field, the source simply works through the essence field to make the necessary changes in the other fields. The white arrows symbolizing the way that the source works directly through all of these fields from the essence field. The consciousness that manifests in the field is not made of dense material energy that has to be physically removed or altered if changes are to be made. The consciousness is made of intelligence that responds like a dream responds to the dreamer, changing readily. Since in the heaven experience created and delivered by the source is the dreamer, as it were, of the heaven reality that is to be created, it can very easily work through the essence consciousness to change the consciousness on the soul and suit fields. Since what is on these fields of consciousness is what manifests in your life, the ability to rapidly edit the fields enables them to provide a very fluid and dynamic flow of heaven experiences that have a far greater range than the heaven experiences that can be had in a field of consciousness that is a material energy manifestation. This is why in the source-perfected universe, where everything will inevitably be transformed into an intelligence manifestation, 100% of all of the heaven experiences that are possible can be experienced. The reason why material energy manifestation suits can only experience 8% of the range of possible heaven experiences is because of the rigidity of the patterns of consciousness in their fields of consciousness. So much of the beauty of heaven is the flow of exquisite sensations, colors, thoughts, and emotions in the moment. This can only happen fully in a field of consciousness that is versatile enough to permit this flow. Only an intelligence manifestation field of consciousness can respond in this manner. Now let's take a look at another variable that has an impact on the quality of the heaven experience that you can have. This is spiritual genetic code. Spiritual genetic code is like biological code. It is the spiritual DNA that makes life happen. Without spiritual genetic code, biological genetic code would not exist, since its physical properties are a materialization of the spiritual genetic code from which it itself is made. The principle is that what manifests on the physical level of reality is what exists on the spiritual level of reality. In this source drawing, I illustrate the 4 different kinds of spiritual genetic code. Basic code is what every being has to have to exist in a manifest form. Without it, you would not have a suit that functioned even minimally. Before the crash of the universal source connection channel, all beings had life code, which is what gave them the DNA needed to manifest what I call a made in heaven life, with every relationship, resource, opportunity, and experience fully given to them in code. All they had to do to achieve total abundance was to work with the source to activate the code and allow it to play the heaven experience for them. When beings allowed the universal source connection channel to disintegrate, the power supply that sustained individual life code was lost, as was the individual life code itself. Without life code, beings are now without the spiritual DNA needed to manifest total abundance. While the heaven experience disc beams in a perfect heaven experience code, you can't play this heaven experience in your life if you don't have the code in your field of consciousness that matches up to the code beamed in by the heaven experience disc. After many months of work after the crash of the universal source connection channel, I was able to devise a way to recreate life code. It requires a considerable amount of material energy, but it can be done. I also created generic code, which requires less material energy to ground. It enables every being to have at least the basics of total abundance, but not the richness of every perfect moment and every perfect resource that would require personal life code to ground. I also created custom code, which is code that is needed to deal with the obstacles placed in one's path by the negativity, or in dealing with the social situations with others who are mired in the story and are not willing to open to new ways of living. Custom code can also be accessed by those without life code to enhance a special event, help transform a relationship into a more love-based relationship, assist in healing, and help with life transitions such as birth and death. Now let's take a look at how the different kinds of code affect the quality of the heaven experience that you can have. If only basic code is on board your field of consciousness, then you have only enough code to exist. You can pick up on heaven happenings but can't live the heaven experience. There just isn't enough code to work with, and you can't fulfill your mission because you lack the code to do so. If you have generic code, then the generic heaven experiences that help you to manifest the love connection with the source, total abundance, love-based relationships, life purpose fulfillment, and perfect health can be sent to you since you have the code to run the heaven experience beamed in from the heaven experience disc. These are experiences that are given to all who work with the source on these projects. For example, you can manifest prosperity, but it might not include everything that was intended for you in your original life code. It will be enough to free you from scarcity, but the perfect relationships, opportunities, and material possessions will not come through for you. What will come through are relationships, opportunities, and material possessions that are adequate to provide you with the basics to fulfill a very elementary level of your mission, but not your full mission. If you have life code, then you can experience everything that you wanted to experience when you agreed to the source-created mission prior to incarnating in this life. It is only with life code that you are able to fulfill your mission in this life, since your mission requires all of the code needed to fulfill it. Since your mission is to build the heaven that only you can build in your personal life and in the world, the life code is the DNA of this heaven. It triggers the precise heaven happenings that result in meeting the right people in your life, having the right opportunities to fulfill your mission, and experiencing the perfection of all the heaven moments that make your life complete. If you think of the complexity of finding the right partner, the right job, the right material possessions, the right opportunities, these are not things that you can force to manifest. If you don't have the source-given life code on your field of consciousness, then you don't have the means by which these things can manifest in your life. You therefore miss out on the opportunity to meet your made-in-heaven partner, to have your made-in-heaven work life, and your made-in-heaven home. There is a quality of the heaven experience that just can't be had without the full array of life code. To have the full range of the heaven experience, you will also need custom code, which gives you supplemental code that goes beyond the range of even life code. Life code will help you manifest all of the important events of your made-in-heaven life, but it doesn't always cover extra code that you might need to deal with the situations you already may have manifested in your life from not having followed the life code for your life path. Custom code can transform a family gathering that might be otherwise testy into a heaven happening that is healing to everyone attending. It can help to manifest a source solution to a difficult situation, such as a conflict between groups of people or nations. It can be sent out to help war victims, abused children, people who are ill, and need a heaven happening to help them to start a process of recovery. If you have all of the code that you need, you can live the heaven experience to the full extent. Now let's take a look at a very important miracle tool that also affects the quality of the heaven experience that you can have. This is the miracle ring. The miracle ring is an inner plane miracle tool. It is a manifestation ring from which manifests a heaven experience support system that is essential to your success in living the heaven experience. In this source drawing, you can see that the power behind the miracle ring is a transformer, bringing in a miracle intelligence, a heaven agent in its own right, who is very powerful. This heaven agent activates the miracle ring on your behalf by sending in material energies that it generates in its manifestation. These material energies are represented by the blue arrow. It then sends in the joy energies sent to it by the source. These joy energies generate the heaven experience support system that is vital to your success in living the heaven experience. Let's take a look at some of the ways in which this support system works. The heaven happenings that are essential to manifesting the heaven experience can't occur in the miracle unfriendly field of energy in which most beings now reside in the creation. In this source drawing, you can see that most of the field is blackened by the hell consciousness of the beings who have reduced themselves to the two-dimensional roles they play in the cultural story. These beings are represented by the orange circles. The beings who are source-connected, which are represented by the blue spheres, are more three-dimensional in the sense that they know that they are miracles in human forms, and that joy and heaven are natural to them. They generate the yellow energy of the heaven experience that they are experiencing in their inner lives in this basically miracle unfriendly field of energy. What the miracle ring does is to surround the energy field in which a heaven happening is to occur with high-power source energies that bring it up vibrationally to the standard of the miracle-friendly field of energy that is required to sustain the miracles that live in that field, such as the beings in the field currently, and also to bring in new miracles that can help those who have been heavily mutated and damaged by living in the toxic miracle-unfriendly field. To the left in this drawing are the new miracles that are coming in to help with the heaven happening, which in this case is to help release the spiritual intelligence of the three beings trapped in the contracted space of their personal stories, so the miracle that they are as a soul in a suit can begin to manifest. As these incoming miracles connect to the beings who have been damaged by the negativity, they release them from the contracted spiritual space that makes them two-dimensional story characters. As they become liberated by the heaven happening from their contracted spiritual space, they let go of the greed that was driving them to fulfill their personal story. This is symbolized by the bright orange color that represents the greed, and it's changed to the lighter orange color. They still have greed, but are beginning to remember the beauty that they once had as miracle intelligences. As they open to the heaven that they are experiencing in the heaven happening, they return to their natural state as expanded miracle intelligences, capable of understanding the value of the heaven experience. Now let's take a look at the Miracle Ring's Heaven Experience support system. This support system creates and maintains the miracle-friendly landing zone for the miracles that come in during the course of a heaven experience opportunity, and for the miracles that are already in the world, such as the beings themselves. The Miracle Ring is the midwife helping the miracles, which are newborn spiritual intelligences, to be birthed into the world with a proper attention to what they need to feel loved and welcomed, and to mature rapidly and begin to do their missions. The Miracle Ring is a part of the Heaven Agent team that provides additional Heaven Agent support in dealing with adversity and creating the conditions in which the full range of a heaven experience opportunity can be realized. And the Miracle Ring can generate emergency amounts of material energy in times of duress, sickness, and at the time of crossing over at the end of the incarnation. In the prototype communities, I created a community Miracle Ring, which was embedded in the ground of their geographical region. It maintained the basic levels of miracle-friendly energy needed for them to build a miracle-based way of life. This community Miracle Ring generated all of the individual miracle rings that each person needed to manifest abundance in their personal lives. In today's world, there's not yet enough material energy provided to establish the huge universal miracle ring that is needed for the universal community. Until this amount of material energy is provided by members of the universal community, every individual heaven agent will have to secure their own individual miracle ring in order to have the equivalent equipment that made total abundance possible in the prototype communities. Now let's take a look at another kind of miracle tool, the Heaven Experience Meter. The Heaven Experience Meter is an inner plane miracle tool. It is a meter that gives you two types of information. It gives you information about your level of skill in working with heaven experience opportunities, and it gives you information about the percent you are realizing of any given heaven experience opportunity. When you can assess at what level of skill you are responding to heaven experience opportunities, this information can help you zero in on the skill sets that the Source is guiding you to develop to improve your ability to work effectively with heaven experiences. With the Heaven Experience Meter, you can track the depth and range of a particular heaven experience to make sure that you're not missing out on any aspect of it. In this way, you develop your spiritual senses, light up all the lights of your spiritual intelligence, and become skilled in tracking all of the rich levels of experiencing that exist in the heaven the Source has created for you. The monitoring station is another kind of miracle tool. In the prototype communities, they have a central monitoring station that amplifies signals sent from the Source to help guide them in their daily, individual, and collective heaven experiences. In the context of life outside of the protected energy field of a prototype community, the Source has created an upgraded version of the monitoring station that is a miracle tool that each heaven agent can work with individually. The upgraded monitoring station amplifies signals from the Source to provide inner plane guided heaven experiences as needed. And it radios back to the Source about any technical difficulties occurring because of the activities of the negativity. The Source can then send in additional Source support to deal with the situation. With the help of the monitoring station, an individual heaven agent working solo can have the same quality of source support that was formerly only available to a whole community. The Heaven Experience Meter and the monitoring station are two of the many miracle tools that the Source has created to help beings live the heaven experience. Many of the miracle tools are created for only a particular heaven agent who needs that kind of equipment given their unique spiritual function and the unique challenges that they face. Whatever miracle tools are needed, the Source can provide them. Now let's take a look at what's involved in getting trained to work with heaven experience opportunities. In a guided heaven experience, I send in the source power to activate the three levels of your consciousness to pick up on the heaven experience. These levels are your essence consciousness, your soul consciousness, and your suit consciousness. I then help you to work with the miracle tools that I provide for you to learn how to track the action in a heaven experience so you can realize 100% of the potential it offers you. Tracking the action includes learning how to track inner heaven happenings that are effecting important suit repairs beyond the range of your conscious mind. It also includes tracking outer heaven happenings that may be manifesting from your heaven experience equipment in distant places on the planet or in the universe. These guided heaven experiences can occur in person or at a distance. So let's take a look at the in-person kinds of guided heaven experiences. These can occur in consultations, in personal and group intensives in the Seattle Ultimate Spiritual Healing Center, in webinars, and in group intensives in Maui, Hawaii. At a distance, guided heaven experiences can occur in Ultimate Spiritual Healing Center stations online. They can occur in personal intensives that provide 24/7 at a distance guided heaven experiences. And they can occur through comprehensive at a distance work through miracle links to music, objects, places, and events. Now let's start with part 2, which is thinking through what it takes to implement the Source plan for total abundance. The goal of the Total Abundance Project is to enable all beings throughout the creation to fulfill their missions in life through living the heaven experience, which structures the heaven happenings that manifest a life that works and a world that works. Only when every being is living the heaven experience can they fulfill their unique missions in life, which collectively build the completed picture of heaven, which is the highest level of happiness for all beings. Through building heaven in their lives and in the world, they express their love for the Source and their appreciation of the miracle of life that the Source has given them. As they express their love for the Source, they rise up to the highest levels of the heaven experience and live in the bliss of the love connection with the Source. Total abundance is living the heaven experience without any attachments to the props that are a part of this experience or to the experience itself. When a being has only a desire to become what is needed to support the work of the Source, they are neutral about what kind of heaven experience manifests in their life. It might be a heaven experience of dealing with some adversity, or the most blissful inner moment of communion with the Source, or a social event where everyone shares in the heaven experience and appreciates the heaven that is manifesting through every aspect of the experience. Those who focus on the love connection with the Source and let go of any attachments to the beings and things that they think will make them happy, rise to the highest levels of Source care and transcend into the highest range of the heaven experience. Out of love for the Source and their desire to contribute to the work of the Source at the highest level, they equip themselves adequately to run the heaven experience with full power, and they train with the Source to do their parts in realizing 100% of each heaven experience opportunity that is offered. The heaven experience is the vehicle that carries you on your journey to total abundance. The heaven experience is the spiritual technology that manifests the heaven experience opportunities that enable you to achieve total abundance in every aspect of your life and world. The heaven experience at its highest level is the total abundance that you achieve at the end of your journey. And the heaven experience is the ultimate experience of the love connection with the Source that releases you from the suffering that is experienced when you seek total abundance for its own sake. Spiritual equipment is needed to have the heaven experience, to work with the miracles that come through the structure of the heaven experience, to help others to have the heaven experience, which is how you contribute to the work of the Source to achieve ultimate spiritual healing for the universal community. Spiritual equipment is needed to build the culture of heaven through establishing the social DNA of life as heaven. And spiritual equipment is needed to build the heaven of a life that works and a world that works, the work of which is structured by the heaven experience. The spiritual equipment needed to live the heaven experience is the heaven experience disc, the field of consciousness equipment, the resonating field and the auxiliary field, spiritual genetic code, generic code, life code, and custom code, the miracle ring, and other miracle tools. When you enter into Source Care, the Source protects your manifestation in the Source Care Transformer. When you equip yourself with what is needed to have the heaven experience, then the spiritual space for the heaven experience can be created for you. Your spiritual space for the heaven experience is actually the most important equipment that you need, but it can only be received when you provide for yourself the other kinds of equipment that are needed by you. You need training to track the heaven experiences. With training, you can develop your spiritual senses so that you can pick up on all of the action that is occurring on both the inner and outer planes during a heaven happening. In this way, you can realize the full range of the heaven experience opportunity. With training, you can learn how to enter into the dance of life on the social level as the heaven experience choreographs the intricate play of interactions that make for all the priceless heaven moments that manifest heaven in your life. With training, you can become an effective spiritual activist, bringing about opportunities for positive social change in populations that would be unreachable with any other approach. With training, you can enjoy the highest level of the heaven experience, which takes you into a deep communion with the Source, from which you experience the bliss of the love connection. The quality of the heaven experience depends on the state of your existing equipment, such as your individual field of consciousness. How well equipped you are with the spiritual equipment needed to have the heaven experience at the highest level. How well trained you are to realize 100% of each heaven experience opportunity, and how attentive you are to the heaven experience as it is unfolding. How effective you are in building a community of heaven agents that will work with you to generate the total abundance of the heaven experience playing out in all of the social interactions in the community. And how well you work with the heaven experience opportunities to build a life that works and a world that works. If your field of consciousness looks like this, then you will not be able to have the heaven experience. In a field of consciousness such as this, there's too much hell consciousness operating at too low of a vibration for the heaven consciousness of the heaven experience to manifest in the field. If your field of consciousness looks like this, then you can have a full-range heaven experience. In this field of consciousness, the individual field of consciousness has become an intelligence manifestation, which is able to run more complex heaven experiences than a field of consciousness that is a material energy manifestation. If the essence, soul, and suit levels of your consciousness are in Source Care at the highest level, then the heaven experience will play on all of these levels, and you will have an integrated experience of heaven. If only your essence consciousness and your soul consciousness are in source care at the highest level, and your suit consciousness is attached to the hell experience, then you will have moments of exquisite heaven experiences and moments of hell experiences. It is like a split screen effect, with the heaven experience playing like a movie on one part of your field of consciousness, and the hell experience playing on the other part of your field of consciousness. If your manifestation has become an intelligence manifestation, then you can experience 100% of the heaven experience opportunities that are possible. You become an intelligence manifestation when you reach the highest level of source care. I discuss how you can attain this level in detail in the source communication video entitled The Source Plan for Transitioning into the Source Perfected World. In an intelligence manifestation, your essence field generates your soul and suit fields instantaneously to respond to the complexity of the heaven experience. This gives you heaven experience opportunities not available in a field of consciousness that is a material energy manifestation. If you have only basic code, you can't have the heaven experience. If you have generic code, you can have a generic heaven experience that's common to all seeking the total abundance the Source has created for the Source perfected universe. If you have individual life code, you can have the precise heaven experiences created for you individually to enable you to fulfill your mission. If you add on custom code as needed, you will have the complete array of possible heaven experiences to respond to the complexities of navigating in the story world. If you have the miracle ring, you can create the miracle-friendly environment for the heaven happenings and have the support of a powerful fellow heaven agent on your team. If you have auxiliary miracle tools such as the Heaven Experience Meter and the monitoring station, you can work most effectively with the heaven experience opportunities that the Source creates for you. The quality of the heaven experience also depends on your ability to realize 100% of the heaven experience opportunity that is given to you. If you have no training, much of the heaven experience will slip by you, and you won't recognize the opportunity to experience heaven that is at hand. Much of the inner plane work brought through by the heaven experience will get done, but you may not experience heaven in your conscious range. If you have good training, you will pick up on the structure of the heaven experience opportunity as it begins to unfold, and will follow the clues of the adventure until you have lived the heaven experience to the full extent. When you can register the heaven experience in your conscious range, then you have fully realized the heaven experience opportunity given to you by the Source. You will need to be alert to the structure of the action so you generate the material energy needed to land the miracles that bring the heaven experience to a successful conclusion. You will also need to be alert to using your heaven experience equipment and training to help other heaven agents who are learning how to live the heaven experience, and to help manifest the heaven happenings that awaken those who have not yet realized that an escape from the hell experience into the heaven experience is a possibility. Now let's move on to part 3, which is next steps to achieving total abundance through living the heaven experience. Your first step is to enter into source care. Next, you need to get equipped and trained to travel the path of ultimate spiritual healing in the vehicle of the heaven experience, experiencing heaven while you are building the heaven of a life that works and a world that works. Once you're equipped, you can begin the journey to total abundance by following the roadmap to total abundance. The journey to total abundance is also your path to ultimate spiritual healing. As you travel the journey to total abundance, you build the heaven of an integrated way of life. and finally, contribute to building the collective heaven experience from which emerges a love-based community that nurtures all of its own. When you become equipped to live the heaven experience, you learn how to build a love-based community and how to work within this community to help every being attain the life purpose fulfillment that is an essential aspect of total abundance. Live the heaven experience. It is the total abundance you experience, and it is the means by which you build total abundance in every aspect of your life and world. For more information on how to build the heaven of total abundance in your life and world, go to www.themiracleschool.net/The Total Abundance Project.